Welcome to The Lion, the Lamb, and the Lawyer. I'm Matt Benson, and today we're going to talk about the myth of the good Christian man or the good Christian woman. We hear a lot about good Christian men and women, but it's usually in passing. People vote for politicians because they think they're good Christians. If you've read any books about Christian dating, they will tell you to wait for a good Christian man or woman to come along. Finally, if you do something that someone who knows you go to church doesn't approve of, and they really want to hit you where you live, they'll look at you and ask something like, "How can you call yourself a good Christian and do something like that?" This is one of those phrases that Christians and non-Christians use fairly often, but never really bother to explain or define. I think when people talk about a good Christian man or a good Christian woman, what they're talking about is a follower of Christ that they find socially acceptable. Here's the problem with that. Good Christian men and women don't actually appear in the Bible, and if you ask Jesus, they don't actually exist. Jesus rebuked someone for calling him good in Mark 10. Besides, Jesus was not in any way socially acceptable. Disregarding the Sabbath because somebody needed a healing was not socially acceptable behavior. Neither was running into the temple and chasing people out with a whip. Paul's letter to the Romans clearly says that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So why do we persist in referring to people as good Christian men or good Christian women when they're obviously not? I think there's a couple of reasons, namely pride and fear. Pride comes in because we want to believe that being a Christian magically reforms our souls and makes us better people. We want to believe that our faith not only provides forgiveness for our transgressions, but also makes them occur less frequently. The truth of the matter is a little bit messier than that. Christians can become new creatures, but it doesn't happen all at once, and it only happens to the extent that we allow it to. Luke 9 says the more of ourselves we give up, the more Jesus takes over. Jesus isn't going to force his way into our lives. We have to let him in. And we do that by clearing out the sinful garbage and the bad habits that come along with it. Sometimes we get attached to our sinful garbage, and so this process happens a little bit more slowly than we'd like to admit. The other reason that we prop up the myth of the good Christian man or the good Christian woman is fear. We fear being attacked by both non-believers and other Christians because we know there is a difference between who we are and who we're supposed to be. All of us know that we have a couple of things we need to work on in our lives, and we've all read that passage in Matthew 7 that reminds us we need to take the plank out of our own eyes before pointing out the speck in someone else's. But since dealing with our own issues is embarrassing and painful, it's a lot easier to just pretend they don't exist. We aren't willing to completely surrender our lives to Christ, but we can put on a mask that will fool the people into thinking we have. We figure if nobody sees the questionable stuff we're doing, then it doesn't really count. We go to church on Sunday, we look good, we say all the right things, and then we come home and spend the next week telling little lies or cutting little corners in places where it's convenient to do so. Unfortunately, Jesus came along and blew all that to pieces. In Matthew 23, Jesus told us to stop tending to appearances and fix what's on the inside. He wanted us to be real. He wanted us to be honest about what our problems are, honest about where we fail, and honest about the fact that even though we try, those issues don't go away overnight. One thing practicing law has taught me is that ignoring a problem will not make it go away. So own your bad habits, own your weaknesses, and own the fact that you're still working to get control of it all. Because being real and under construction is a lot more honorable than pretending your flaws aren't there. Jesus didn't want us to be trapped by our own pride, and he certainly didn't want us to live in fear. Jesus didn't want us to spend our lives trying to keep up appearances and pretending to be good Christian men and women. What Jesus told us to do is what I end every video with, the two big rules of Christianity. Love God with all you are, and love your neighbor as yourself. Thanks for watching.